You tell me when you're ready.
Okay, we're allowed to give 4 seconds.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yadha Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivachikam Vitam Cha Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhistam Supurakam Guruganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govinda Vidam Ujwalam Varatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Vande Vishwa Gurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Prem Nawe Bija Pranam Devam Divyatanam Suchanda Varanam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyam Buddhim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatam Varam Banditam Shivaram Mareka Sharanam Nyashishwara Shidharam Vanshakopatarubyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Guratavishe Namah. So, we're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. This is with translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And this is chapter 8. Talks between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy. So today is what, the disappearance day? Disappearance day of Srila Ramananda Roy. So I'm going to start from chapter 8 and read this, and I'll continue reading this while I'm here in London in the morning. Okay? So I'll read the summary of the 8th chapter is given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Amrita Pravaha Bhashya. After visiting the temple of Jayada Nrsimha, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the banks of the river Godavari to a place known as Vidyanagar. When Srila Ramananda Roy went there to take his bath, they both met. After being introduced, Sri Ramananda Roy requested Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to remain in the village for some days. Honoring his request, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed there in the home of some Vedic Brahmins. In the evening, Srila Ramananda Roy used to come to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ramananda Roy, who was clothed in ordinary dress, offered the Lord respectful obeisances. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu questioned him on the object and process of worship, and also asked him to recite verses from Vedic literature. First of all, Srila Ramananda Roy enunciated the system of the Varnashram institution. He recited various verses about karmarpana, stating that everything should be dedicated to the Lord. He then spoke of detached action, knowledge mixed with devotional service, and finally, the spontaneous loving service of the Lord. After hearing Srila Ramananda Roy recite some verses, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the principle of pure devotional service, devoid of all the kinds of speculation. After this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Roy to explain the higher platform of devotional service. Then Srila Ramananda Roy explained unalloyed devotional service, love of Godhead, serving the Lord with pure servitude, as well as fraternity and parental love. Finally, he spoke of serving the Lord in conjugal love. He then spoke of how conjugal love can be developed in various ways. This conjugal love attains its highest perfection in Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna. He next described the position of Srimati Radharani and the transcendental mellows of love of God. Srila Ramananda Roy then recited one verse of his own concerning the platform of ecstatic vision technically called Prema Vilasa Vivarta. Srila Ramananda Roy also explained that all stages of conjugal love can be attained through the mercy of the residents of Vrindavan, especially the mercy of the gopis. All these subject matters were thus vividly described. Gradually, Ramananda Roy could understand the position of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his real form, Ramananda Roy fell unconscious. After some days, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Roy to retire from government service and come to Jagannath Puri. These descriptions of the meetings between Ramananda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are taken from the notebook of Swarup Damodar Goswami. Sancharya Ramabida Bhaktamege Swabhakti Siddhanta Chayamritani Gorabdir Etar Amuna Vitirnais Tadgyatva Ratnalaya Tamrayati. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is known as Gauranga, is a reservoir of all conclusive knowledge in devotional service. He empowered Sri Ramananda Roy, who may be likened to a cloud of devotional service. This cloud was filled with all the conclusive purports of devotional service and was empowered by the ocean to spread this water over the sea. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the ocean of knowledge of pure devotional service. So the cloud analogy is a very nice description because the cloud is drawing water from the ocean. And these, Ramananda Roy, Mahaprabhu, in further meetings with others, especially when he traveled and met with Rupa Sanatana Goswami in Rupa Goswami in Prayag and Sanatana Goswami in Varanasi, Mahaprabhu explained that he was giving what he heard from Ramananda Roy, and Mahaprabhu is described Ramananda Roy as being his, like a spiritual master, one could say, in the relation of a spiritual master, because there is Diksha and Siksha gurus. And Mahaprabhu accepted Ramananda Roy, put him in the position of Siksha guru, although Ramananda Roy himself complained or commented that he was not the source of these conclusions, that they were coming from Mahaprabhu, but Mahaprabhu was asking the questions, as one questions one spiritual master. And when Ramananda Roy objected, then Mahaprabhu said, Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi Shudra Kanino Ye Krishna Tadvaveta Seguru Hoy. Doesn't matter what position you are in life. You may be Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi. I may be a Brahmin and I may be a sannyasi. Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi Shudra Kanino. And you may consider yourself to be a Shudra. Shudra Kaninoy, Jai Krishna Tattva Veda. But you are giving knowledge of Krishna, Jai Krishna Tattva Veda. You are giving Krishna Tattva Veda. You're giving all the conclusions of about one's relationship with the Lord, Sambandha. Jai Krishna Tattva Veda, Seguru Hoy. Because of that, you should be considered Jai Krishna Tattva Veda Seguru Hoy. You're in the position of being a guru, or Sambandha guru like that, and giving conclusions of one's relationship. And so Mahaprabhu is told later, I'm just giving what I heard from Ramananda Roy. But all the conclusive truths were being drawn from Mahaprabhu, just as the cloud draws water from the ocean. And then when the cloud fills with water, the water again falls on the ocean. So Mahaprabhu is the source of everything. And Ramananda Roy obviously recognized that, but then after the clouds filled and clouds pouring water back on the ocean. So this analogy is very nice. Sancharya Ramabhida Bhakta Mege Swabhakti Siddhanta Chayamritani Gorabdir Etar Amuna Vitirnais Tadsgyatva Ratnalayatam Prayati. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as Gauranga, as the reservoir of all conclusive knowledge and devotional service. He empowered Sri Ramananda Roy, who may be likened to a cloud of devotional service. This cloud was filled with all the conclusive purports of devotional service and was empowered by the ocean to spread this water over the sea, or back on the ocean. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself was the ocean of knowledge, of pure devotional service. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purvavrite Prabhu Age Gamana Korila Jiyana Nishinga Ketre Katadine Gela. According to his previous program, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went forward on his tour, and after some days arrived at the place of pilgrimage known as Jiyada Nishinga. The Jiyada Nishinga temple is situated on the top of a hill about 5 miles away from Vishakhapatnam. There is a railway station on the South Indian Railway known as Simachala. The temple known as Simachala is the best temple in the vicinity of Vishakhapatnam. This temple is very affluent and is a typical example of the architecture of the area. In one stone tablet is mentioned that formerly a queen covered the deity with gold plate. This is mentioned in the Vishaka Patana Gazetteer, a newspaper apparently. About the temple, there are residential quarters for the priest and temple and devotees. Indeed, at the present moment, there are many residential quarters to accommodate visiting devotees. The original deity is situated within the depths of the temple, but there is another deity, a duplicate, known as the Vijay Murti. This smaller deity can be moved from the temple and taken on public processions. Priests who generally belong to the Ramanuja Sampradaya are in charge of the deity worship. So one thing about these purports, we're not always reading the whole purports because some of the information is given to help one go on pilgrimage if one wishes to see some of the sites mentioned. And then there's also detailed knowledge. And maybe some of the railway stations, etc., they may not even be operative anymore because some of this information is going back maybe 100 years. So things have changed. But if someone wishes to visit different temples of Mahaprabhu's pilgrimage, this is interesting knowledge. So I will compare this knowledge given here, and it's given in the Amrita Pravaha Bhashya and other scriptures, other commentaries on the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is interesting, just like someone who's doing a research project. This gives like research material that may be useful for a pilgrim, etc. But we may read the Chaitanya Charitamrita and maybe we'll choose not to read about all the railway stations and places of going, because that can be used as a research scholar for someone who wishes to go on pilgrimage, and we may just be reading. So in this way I'm explaining why some of the purports I may not be reading, because they have knowledge which would be pertinent to someone who wants to find about all the facts of going on this visit to places that Mahaprabhu went to and here. So I'm going to continue. Nishinga Dekya Koila Dandavat Pranati Premaveshe Koila Bahu Nritya Gita Stuti. After seeing the deity, Lord Nishinga in the temple, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered his respectful obeisances by falling flat. Then in ecstatic love he performed various dances, chanted and offered prayers. Shri Nishinga Jaya Nishinga Jaya Jaya Nishinga Pralada Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa. All glories to Nishingadev, all glories to Nishingadev, who is the Lord of Prahlad Maharaj, and like the honeybee, is always engaged in beholding the lotus-like face of the goddess of fortune. Ugropi anugra evayam svabhaktanam nri keshari. Ugropi anugra evayam svabhaktanam nri keshari. Keshariva swapotanam anyesham ugra vikrama. Although very ferocious, the lioness is very kind to her cubs. Similarly, although very ferocious to non-devotees like Hiranyakashipu, Lord Nrsingadev is very, very soft and kind to devotees like Prahlad Maharaj. This verse is composed by Sridhar Swami in his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the ancient we could say, Sridhar Swami, one of the original commentators on the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Let's read, let's see, today is the 20th, so just 5 days ago, we celebrated Nrsinga Chaturdasi. Imata nana shloka paristuti koila Nrsinga sevaka mala prashada anidila. So it's May 20th. In this way, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited different verses from the Shastra. The priest of Lord Nrsingadev then brought garlands and the remnants of the Lord's food and offered them to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purvavat kona bipre koila nimantran seiratri tahanrahe korila gaman. As usual, Brahman offered Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu an invitation. The Lord passed the night in the temple and then commenced his tour again. So this is Mahaprabhu's program. And when he's traveling, Brahmins will invite him to their house to eat. Most times a person would be a Brahmin, could invite Mahaprabhu, otherwise his servant, who in this case is Krishnadas, he could cook for Mahaprabhu. Or maybe there's a cook with Krishnadas, I don't remember so well. And Srila Govinda Maharaj explained that he was born in a Brahmin family in a village of cowherd boys and cow keepers, what's called Vaishya family. So when he would be invited to the house of a Brahmin, then he couldn't eat what they cooked. And otherwise, if he went to the house of Vaishyas, or cowherd boys, then they would usually serve him something like muri or chira. Chira is like rice flakes soaked in yogurt or milk, or muri. He said if they had muri and gur, they would have muri and gur, and if they had a banana, that would be a mahotsav. So why muri or chira, gur and banana? Because these are items that could be served by the Vaishyas to a Brahmin. In those days, things were like that. So unless one was a Brahmin, it would not cook, and these were Vaishyas. So they would serve muri and maybe gur and maybe yogurt and some banana and that could be taken by Gurudev, who was from a Brahmin family. So, as usual, Brahman offered Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu an invitation to the Lord, passed the night in the temple, and then commenced the story again. Prabhate Uttiya Prabhu Chalila Prima Beshe Dig Bidik Nahi Jnana Ratri Divase. The next morning, in the great ecstasy of love, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started his tour with no knowledge of the proper direction, and he continued the whole day and night. Purvavat Vaishnava Kori Sarva Lokagane Godavari Tire Prabhu Aila Katadine. As previously, Mahaprabhu converted to Vaishnavism many people he met on the road, and after some days, the Lord reached the banks of the river Godavari. So there are three ways by which people would get, empowered by Mahaprabhu, or would get Vaishnavism from him: Sakshat, by his direct association, then Sakshat, then being empowered. What is the word for empowers? Shaktavesh, being empowered. Someone who's empowered could give Mahaprabhu to persons. And then also Avirbhav, by Mahaprabhu appearing within somebody. So these are the three ways. Places like where Avirbhav, where Mother Sakshi is offering prasadam to Nimai, where Nityananda is dancing, where in the place of Shiva's Thakur, where Shiva Sangam, where Kirtan is going on, or in the place of, Raghava Pandit, I believe it's Raghava Pandit, where he's offering food to the deities. And Mahaprabhu going in his Avirbhav form, and Shakshat in the place of, Shivananda Sam was instructed, who was it? He was instructed to meet Nishinga. Was it Nishingananda Brahmachari? But I believe that's Avirbhav also, but maybe Shakshat, who is empowered by Mahaprabhu. Anyway, we'll go on. Godavari deki hoila jamana smaran tiribana deki smriti hoila Vrindavan. When he saw the river Godavari, the Lord remembered the river Jamuna. And when he saw the forest on the banks of the river, he remembered Sri Vrindavan Dham. Sebane Katakan Korila Nityagan Godavari Bara Hoya Taha Koila Snan. After performing his usual chanting and dancing for some time in this forest, the Lord crossed the river and took his bath on the other bank. Gatachari Katadure Jala Sanidane Vashi Prabhu Kori Krishna Karna Sankirtane. After bathing in the river, the Lord walked a little distance from the bathing place and engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna. Enakali Tolai Chadi Ramananda Rai Snana Kori Bare Aila Bhajana Bhajai. I believe Guru Maharaj was charged of opening a temple, I believe, because he was at one time called Ramananda, and he had something to do with that place of worship of Ramananda Roy. At that time, accompanied by the sounds of music, Hinakali Dolai Chadi Ramananda Roy Snana Kori Vari Aila Bhajana Bhajai. At that time, accompanied by the sounds of music, Ramananda Roy came there, mounted on a palanquin to take his bath. Tarasange Bahuaila, Vaidika Brahman, Vidimate, Koila Teho, Snanadi, Tapan. Many Brahmins following the Vedic principles, these are Vedic Brahmins, that means follow all the rules and regulations. The Vedic Brahmins. Many Brahmins following the Vedic principles accompanied Ramananda Roy. According to the Vedic rituals, Ramananda Roy took his bath and offered oblations to his forefathers. Prabhu Tare Deki Janila Ramarai Tahare Milite Prabhu Mana Utirai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could understand that the person who had come to bathe in the river was Ramananda Roy. The Lord wanted so much to meet him that his mind immediately began running after him. Tatapi Daryam Dori Prabhu Rohila Basiya Ramanandaila Apurva Sanyasi Dekiya. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was running after him mentally, he patiently remained sitting. Ramananda Roy, seeing the wonderful sannyasi, then came to see him. Surya Shata Samakanti Arunabasan Subalita Prakanda Deho Kamalalochan. Srila Ramananda Roy then saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as brilliant as 100 suns. The Lord was covered by a saffron garment, sannyas beige. The Lord was covered by a saffron garment. He was large in body and very strongly built, and his eyes were like lotus petals. Dekiya Haramane Hoila Chamatkar, Asiya Korila Dandavat Namaskar. When Ramananda Roy saw the wonderful sannyasi, he was struck with wonder. He went to him and immediately offered his respectful obeisances, falling down flat like a rod. So he's offering his dandavats to Mahaprabhu. Shashtanga dandavats. Uti Prabhu Kohe Uta Koha Krishna Krishna Tariyan Lingite Prabhur Ridoya Satrishna. The Lord stood up and asked Ramananda Roy to arise and chant the holy name of Krishna. Indeed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very eager to embrace him. Tatapi puchila tumi raya Ramananda teho kohe se hoya dasha shudramanda. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then inquired whether he was Ramananda Roy, and he replied, "Yes, I am your very low servant, and I belong to the Shudra community." So I've lived many years in Mexico, and I know there's still some remnant of this. If you call somebody and you ask for that person, you say, "Is John there?" And it is John. He says, "Yes, your servant is speaking." Very nice. It's like that here. Mahaprabhu then inquired whether he was Ramananda Roy, and he replied, "Yes, I am your very low servant, and I belong to the Sudra community." Now, actually, Ramananda Roy is the governor of that area. At some places it says he's the governor. We could say, but this is happening. What is now Andhra Pradesh, but maybe different. But anyway, Ramananda Roy is a high government servant, and he is very rich. He's a tax collector and everything. But in the eyes of the stratified Varnashram system, although because he's not a Brahmin, he's considered like a Shudra, but that's how he identifies himself. Tabi tare koila prabhu drida alingan primaveshe prabhu britya dohe achitan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then embraced Ramananda Roy very firmly. Indeed, both the master and the servant almost lost consciousness due to ecstatic love. Swabhavika prema dohar udaya korila duha alingya duhe bhumite parila. Their natural love for one another was awakened in them both, and they both embraced and fell down on the ground. Srila Ramananda Roy was incarnation of the Gopi Vishaka, since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Lord Krishna himself, covered with the sentiments of Radharani and her effulgence. Since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Lord Krishna himself, there was naturally an awakening of love between Vishaka and Krishna, and also we can say between Vishaka and Radharani. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a combination of Srimati Radharani and Krishna. The Gopi Vishaka is a principal gopi assisting Srimati Radharani. Ramananda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced since their natural love also was awakened. Stambasveda Ashru Kampa Pulaka Vaivarnya Duhara Mukete Shuni Gadgara Krishna Varna. When they embrace one another, ecstatic symptoms, paralysis, the body becomes like stunned. Paralysis, perspiration, tears, shivering, palpitations, and paleness appeared. The word Krishna came from their mouths falteringly. So these are ecstatic symptoms. And they're translated in this way, and there's no need to explain them. Jakiya Brahmana Ganera Hoila Chamatkar Vaidika Brahmana Sabe Korana Vichar. When the stereotype ritualistic Brahmins, when the stereotype ritualistic Brahmins who followed the Vedic principles saw this ecstatic manifestation of love, they were struck with wonder. All these Brahmins began to reflect as follows. So seeing Mahaprabhu, this wonderful sannyasi, embracing, who is stereotyped as a Shudra, and they're seeing them embrace, and all these ecstatic symptoms appear. And these are Vedic Brahmins. They're not. What is it? Ragmarg and Vidimarg. So Vaidika refers to those who follow Vidi. They're following Vidi, but so they're good Brahmins, but they're very much here stereotype ritualistic Brahmins described here. And they're seeing these ecstatic symptoms appear, and they cannot understand them. Etan sanyasir teja deki brahmasam shudre alingya kene korana krandan. These Brahmins begin to think, we can see that this sannyasi has a luster like the effulgence of Brahman, but how is it he is crying upon embracing a Shudra, a member of the fourth caste in the social order? A Maharaj Mahapandita Gambir Sanyasira Sparshe Mata Hoila Astir. They thought this Ramananda Roy is the governor of Madras. A Maharaj. This is a Maharaj Mahapandit Gambir. He is the governor. Described here as the governor, it just says, hey, a Maharaj. He's a highly learned and grave person, a Mahapandit, but upon touching the sannyasi, he has become restless like a madman. So they're confused. This is a very effulgent, like very elevated sannyasi, and he's embracing this government man, and both of them are showing ecstatic symptoms. So how is this? They're confused. Why is this happening? Emata vipragana bhave mane man vijatiya loka deki prabhu koila sambaran. While the Brahmins were thinking in this way about the activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the Brahmins and restrained his transcendental emotions. Ramananda Roy was intimately related to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, therefore he can be accepted as a Sajatiya person within the intimate circle of the Lord. The Brahmins, however, were followers of the Vedic rituals and were not able to have an intimate connection with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Consequently, they are called Vijatiya Lok, as compared to, let's see, Sajatiya, and they're called Vijatiya Lok. In other words, they were not pure devotees. One may be a highly learned Brahmin, but if he's not a pure devotee, he is a Vijatiya, an outcast, one outside devotional service. In other words, a non-devotee. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy were embracing in ecstasy, the Lord restrained his transcendental emotions upon seeing these outsider Brahmins. So they're caste Brahmins, in other words. They're caste Brahmins, and they go with Ramananda Roy. They chant the Vedic mantras and everything like that, but it's ritualistic to a certain extent. And Ramananda Roy's highly elevated Vaishnava. So they're not able to understand the relationship between Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy. So then Mahaprabhu, seeing that they're confused, or not, they're looking on what's happening, then Mahaprabhu restrains his natural ecstatic symptoms.
Maharaj, I ask you a question.
Yeah.
So Rupa and Sanatan, they left their post as ministers.
Uh-huh.
But did Ramananda Roy also later on left that?
Yes, he also left. He told Maharaj Pratraparudra that he no longer wanted to continue with his responsibilities, and from then on he just accompanied Mahaprabhu in Puri. He would come. Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar were always with Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, and the king released him from his governmental service and gave him a full pension also, without reducing anything. So, like that. Shushtahaya duhe se stanete basila tameha se mahaprabhu kohite lagila. When they regained their sanity, they both sat down. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to smile and speak as follows. So that's a nice translation. When they regained their sanity, they both sat down, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to smile and speak as follows. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya Kohila Tomar Gune Tomare Milite More Korila Jatane. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has spoken of your good qualities, and he has made a great endeavor to convince me to meet you. So before Mahaprabhu left for South India, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, I want you to meet Ramananda Roy. Because before he was converted by Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was not understanding Vaishnavas, and he said, I couldn't understand Ramananda Roy, but now that you have changed me, I can appreciate what kind of a devotee Ramananda Roy is, and I think you should, and I ask you to meet with him. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya Mahaprabhu speaking, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has spoken of your good qualities, and he has made a great endeavor to convince me to meet you. Toma milibare mora eta agaman malol hoila anayase pailun darshan. Indeed, I have come here just to meet you. It is very good that even without making an effort, I have gotten your interview today. I have gotten your darshan without even knowing necessarily where I'm going or anything. I was just drawn here. So without making an effort, I have gotten your darshan here. Raya kohe sarvabhauma kore britya gyan parokheya morahite hoy samvadan. Ramananda Roy replies, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya thinks of me as his servant. Even in my absence, he is very careful to do me good. So he's always, thinks of me and has, therefore, actually I consider myself his servant, and I consider that he's always doing something good for me. So, Tarakripai Painu Tomar Darshan Aji Safala Hoila Mora Manushya Janam. By his mercy I have received your darshan here. Consequently, I consider that today I have become a successful human being. So I've considered that today I've got Manusha Janma. I've gotten, in a very nice way, I've become a successful human being, or I am my So this, by meeting you, my birth as a human being has become successful. Sarvabhauma Tomar Kripa Tara Echina Asprishya Sparshile Hoya Tara Primadan. Pardon me. Sarvabhauma Tomar Kripa Tara Echina Asprishya Sparshile Hoya Tara Primadina. I can see that you have bestowed special mercy upon Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Therefore you have touched me, although I am untouchable. This is due only to his love for you. You've given his special mercy to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. I can understand that. And you have touched me because of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's love. This is Kahantumi Sakat Ishvara Narayana Kahanmui Raja Sebi Vishais Sudradam. You are Shakat Ishvara Narayan. You are directly the Supreme Lord Narayan himself. And I am only a government servant interested in materialistic activities. Indeed, I am the lowest among men of the Sud of the fourth caste. I'm just engaged in government service, and I'm a Sensenjor, I have Vishayi, and I'm actually Shudra, so, but you're touching me, you're embracing me, so. Mora Sparshina Korile Grina Vedabai Moradarshan Toma Vede Nishedai. You do not even fear the Vedic injunction stating that you should not associate with a Shudra. You are not contemptuous of my touch, although in the Vedas you are forbidden to associate with Shudras. Tomar Kripai Tomai Koraya Nindya Karma Sakarishwara Tumi Kejane Tomara Marma. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, therefore no one can understand your purpose. By your mercy, you are touching me, although this is not sanctioned by the Vedas. Ama Nishtarite Tomar Iha Agaman Paramadoyalu Tumi Patika Pavan. You have come here specifically to deliver me. You are so merciful that you alone can deliver all fallen souls. Mahanta swabhave tarite pamar nijakarya nahitabud janataragar. It is the general practice of all saintly people to deliver the fallen. Therefore, they go to people's houses, although they have no personal business there. So they're doing bhikka, they're begging from and going to the ordinary person's houses, and it seems as if they're doing bhiksha, they're doing begging. But they have no purpose even in begging. Their real purpose is to give something to the fallen souls, to give them mercy, actually. So,
Maharaj, in Bhagavatam there is a nice shloka where it's said that Shukadev Goswami did not spend more time in the house of a person to just get the milk. And by that time, the house of the person became a temple.
yeah, so this is the mercy of the Vaishnavas. They're not beggars. And always when I was going out and collecting from people, I would try to remember, try to always meditate that I'm doing Guru Seva, that my doing so is to serve Gurudev, and that's why I'm going, approaching people and asking them for help. It's Guru Seva, it's my service to Gurudev, and they get benefited, they get sukriti when that, by giving something like that. Mahad Vichalanam Nrinam Grihinam Dina Chetasam Nishreya Saya Bhagavan Nanyata Kalpate Kvachit. My dear Lord, sometimes great saintly persons go to homes of householders, although these householders are generally low-minded. When a saintly person visits their homes, one can understand that it is for no other purpose than to benefit the householders. Amara Sange Brahmari Sahasrika Jan Tomara Darshane Sabar Drave Bhutaman. Along with me there are about 1,000 men. Sahasrika Jan. There are about 1,000 persons with me. He's traveling with a big entourage. Brahmananda Roy. Along with me there are about 1,000 men, including the Brahmins, and all of them appear to have had their hearts melted simply by seeing you. Krishna Krishna Nama Shuni Sabar Bharane Sabar Anga Pulakita Ashrunayane. I hear everyone chanting the holy name of Krishna. Everyone's body is thrilled with ecstasy, and there are tears in everyone's eyes. Akritye Prakritye Tomar Ishwara Lakan Jivenas Sambhave E Aprakritagun. My dear Lord, according to your bodily features and behavior, you are Ishwar, you are the Lord, Supreme Lord Himself. Such behavior and features are impossible for ordinary living beings, for they cannot possess such transcendental qualities. Prabhu kohe tumi maha bhagavat totama tomardarshane sabar draba hoilaman. The Lord replied to Ramananda Roy, Sir, you are the best of the topmost devotees. You're Mahabhagavata. Therefore, upon seeing you, everyone's heart is melted. So, Brahmananda Roy says, because of your association, everyone's been transformed. And Mahaprabhu says, but you are the Mahabhagavata. I'm just an ordinary sannyasi. You are the Mahabhagavata. And by being with you, their hearts have become melted. The Lord replied to Ramananda Roy, you are the best of the topmost devotees. You're a Mahabhagavata. Therefore, upon seeing you, everyone's heart is melted. Anyere kikata ami mayavadi sannyasi, amiya tomara sparshe Krishna preme bhashi. Although I am a mayavadi sannyasi, a non-devotee, I'm also floating in the ocean of love of Krishna simply by touching you, and what to speak of others. Ejane katina mora hridaya shodite sarvabhoma kohilena tomare milite. Knowing this, in order to rectify my heart, which is very hard, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked me to meet you. So, Mahaprabhu, he is always expressing himself as he's not expressing himself as the Supreme Lord. He expressed, I'm just a Mayavadi sannyasi, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya sent me to see you, thinking that it's going to help me. So, Emata duhe stuti kore duhara gun duhe duhara darshane ananditaman. This way, each of them praised the qualities of the other, and both of them were pleased to see one another. Hinakali Vaidika ek Vaishnava Brahman Dandavad Kori Koila Prabhure Nimantran. At this time, one Brahman Vaishnava, following the Vedic principles, came and offered obeisances. He fell flat before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and invited him for lunch. So we're also invited for lunch today. Very nice. Nimantran Manila Tare Vaishnava Janiya Ramanande Kohe Prabhu Ishan Hashya. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the Brahman's invitation, knowing him to be a devotee, and slightly smiling, spoke as follows to Ramananda Roy. Tomara mukhe Krishna kata shunite hoiman punarapi pai jena tomara darshan. I wish to hear from you about Lord Krishna. Indeed, my mind is inclined to desire this, therefore I wish to see you again. Raya kohe aila jari pamar shodite darshana matre shudana he mora dushta chite dina pancha shata rohe koraha marjan tabe shuda hoy mor e dushtaman. Ramananda Roy replied, My Lord, although you have come to correct me, a fallen soul, my mind is not yet purified simply by seeing you. Please stay for 5 to 7 days and kindly cleanse my polluted mind. After that much time, my mind will certainly be pure. Jajapi vicheda dohara sahanana chai tatapi dandavakori chalila Ramaroy. Although neither could tolerate the other's separation, Ramananda Roy nonetheless offered his obeisances to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and departed. Prabhu Jai se Vipra Gore Bhikka Koila. Prabhu Jai se Vipra Gore Bhikka Koila. Dui Janar Udkantaya Asi Sadhya Hoila. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then went to the house of the Brahmin who had invited him and took his lunch there. When the evening of that day arrived, both Ramananda Roy and the Lord were eager to meet one another again. Prabhu Snan Krityakori Achena Vasya Eg Brityasange Rai Milila Asya. After finishing his evening bath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat down and waited for Ramananda Roy to come. Then Ramananda Roy, accompanied by one servant, came to meet him. So, the way I see it, then when you take Gayatri Mantra, you're asked to chant 3 times a day during the sadhya. I guess I would assume before chanting the Gayatri Mantra, you would bathe, put on, and sit down in a clean place. Anyway, after finishing his evening bath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat down, waited for Ramananda Roy to come. Then Ramananda Roy, accompanied by one servant, came to meet him. Prabhu Snan Krityakori Achena Vasya Ek Pritya Sange Rai Milila Asya. So this time Ramananda Roy is just with one servant, not previously it was thousands of people, but now one. Namaskara Koila Rai Prabhu Koila Alingane Duijane Krishna Kata Kaya Rahastane. Ramananda Roy approached Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and offered him respectful obeisances, and the Lord embraced him. Then they both began to discuss Krishna in a secluded place. Prabhu kohe parashloka sandhyara nirnoy raya kohe swadharma charane Vishnu bhakti hoy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Ramananda Roy to recite a verse from the revealed scriptures concerning the ultimate goal of life. Ramananda Roy replied that if one executes the prescribed duties of his social position, he awakens his original Krishna consciousness. Varnashrama charavata purushena parapuman Vishnur aradyate pantya nanyata tosha karanam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashrama. There is no other way to satisfy the Lord. One must be situated in the institution of the four Varnas and Ashramas. This is a quotation from the Vishnu Purana about the Varnashram Dharma system. Prabhu kohe ehobaya age koho araya kohe Krishna karmarpana sarva sadyasar. The Lord replied, this is external. This is external. You had better tell me some other means. Ramananda replied, to offer the results of one's activities to Krishna is the essence of all perfection. Karma Yoga, offering the results of one's activities. First, it's acting within an institutionalized system of Varnashram Dharma, doing your duties. But now he's saying, offer the results of one's activities to Krishna. Yat karoshi, yad ashnashi, yad juhoshi, dadasi yat tapashyasi konteya, tat karushva, mad arpanam. Ramananda Roy continued, O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. And so, this is Bhagavad Gita. Yat karoshi yadashnashi yad jahoshi dadasi yat tabashyasi konteya tad kurushva mad arpanam. Ramananda Roy continued, O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. Okay. Prabhu kohe ehobaya age koho ar raya kohe swadharma tyaga e sadyasar. This is also external, Mahaprabhu said. Please proceed and speak further on this matter. Ramananda Roy replied, to give up one's occupational duties in the Varnashrama is the essence of perfection. So he says, first to act according to one's duty in the Varnashram Dharma system. Mahaprabhu says, this is external. Then he says, offer the results of all that you do, all that you eat, all that you, etc. Offer everything to the Lord. And then Mahaprabhu says, it's a formality, it's also external. And now he's saying, now Ramananda Roy is going on further. He says, give up one's occupational duties in the Varnashram is the essence of perfection, to abandon all, give up all ritualistic activities, etc. Gyayaivam gunandoshan maya ishtan abhisvakan Dharman Samritya Yasarvan Mambajit Sacha Sattamaha. Ramananda Roy continued, occupational duties are described in the religious scriptures. If one analyzes them, he can fully understand their qualities and faults, and then give them up completely to render service unto the Supreme Lord. Such a person is considered a first-class man. And then Brahmananda Roy continues, Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam braja tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami ma shucha. As stated in the scriptures, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, after giving up all kinds of religious and occupational duties, if you come to me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and take shelter, I will give you protection from all of life's sinful reactions. Do not worry. Just give up all kinds of religious and occupational duties and surrender to the Lord. But then here comes Mahaprabhu's answer. Mahaprabhu says, Raya Prabhu kohe ehobaya age koho ar Raya kohe jnana mishra bhakti sadyasar. After hearing Ramananda Roy speak in this way, after hearing Sarvadharmam parityaja sharanam, abandon all your duties and just surrender, Lord. After hearing Ramananda Roy speak in this way, Mahaprabhu said, Ekobaya age kohar. This is external, you can say something more. Ramananda Roy then replied, devotional service mixed with empiric knowledge is the essence of perfection. So Mahaprabhu rejects this, and we always say, many times we'll recite the verse, Sarvadharmam, but like this is a conclusion of Bhagavad Gita coming this way. So, and that verse is around the domes of the temple in Navadip. So one can say, why is that external? So Govinda Maharaj was asked about that. Why did Mahaprabhu say that in response to Sarvadharmam parityaja, one should surrender to the Lord and abandon all one's activities? And Govinda Maharaj said, because one has no job. One has no job. We should surrender, that is the perfection. But you also, that has to be done in relationship with being engaged in devotional service and following the activities given by one's spiritual master. Otherwise, how will you just surrender to the Lord? You have no job. So Sarvadharmam parityaja, you should surrender and just to become engaged, abandon all external activities. But you also have to have activities and understanding given by the spiritual master. Otherwise, your surrender will not be complete, it will be artificial. So Prabhu kohe age, ehobaya age kohoar, raya kohe jnana mishra bhakti sadyasar. So that's renunciation. And Mahaprabhu says that's external. You just can't renounce, that doesn't give you anything. Ramananda Roy then replied, devotional service mixed with empiric knowledge is the essence of perfection. This is Jnana Mishra Bhakti. And then Brahma Bhuta Prashanatmana Shochati Na Kankshati Samasarveshu Bhuteshu Madbhaktim Labate Param. Ramananda Roy continued, according to Bhagavad Gita, one who is thus transcendently situated and once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes joyful, he never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. But actually, this is true. This verse says, Samasarveshu Bhuteshu, when he's come to that level, Madbhaktim Lavate Param, then devotional service begins. But then, Mahaprabhu kohe ehobaya age koho ar, Raya kohe jnana shunya bhakti sadyasar. After hearing this, the Lord, as usual, rejected it, considering to be external devotional service. He again asked Ramananda Roy to speak further, and Ramananda Roy replied, pure devotional service without any touch of speculative knowledge is the essence of perfection.
Maharaj,
Yes?
what is devotional service mixed with empiric experience? You read it?
Empiric knowledge.
Yeah, what does it mean? Devotional service?
Karma, this is, he is described as Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Knowledge still mixed with devotional service, mixed with Gyan. I mean, it's devotional service mixed with Gyan, and Mahaprabhu rejects that. And Mahaprabhu, I mean, there's a verse by Rupa Goswami. What is it? Verse, I know that verse, but it's Miss Krishna Nu Srila on Swami Krishna. What is the verse by Rupa Goswami? Verse we all know, we all recite that verse. My memory fails me, but what is that verse?
What is the translation? The meaning?
One should leave knowledge far away and just engage in devotional. Jnana karma, free of jnana and karma. Rupa Goswami. Verse everyone knows. Why do you forget this? Krishna Nu Shilanam Bhaktir Uttama. What is it? It's not a verse from him. You look it up, you'll find it. Krishna Nu Shilanam. It's that one should leave Gyan far away and just Jnana karma. What is it? Anyway, you can look.
Jnana referring to the knowledge of the worldly things?
Can you look that up? Did you find it?
I'm looking.
Okay. After hearing this, the Lord, as usual, rejected, considering to be external devotional service. He again asked Ramananda Roy to speak further, and Ramananda Roy replied, pure devotional service without any touch of speculative knowledge is the essence of perfection. Then, Jnane prayasam udapashyana damanta eva shivanti swamukaritam bhavadi amrit vartam Jnane prayasam udapashyanamanta eva shivanti san mukaritam bhavadiya vartam stani stita shrutigatam tanuvan manobir ye prayasho jita jitopi asaitais trilokyam. Ramananda Roy continued, Lord Brahma said, my dear Lord, there are devotees who have thrown away the impersonal conception of the absolute truth and have therefore abandoned discussing empirical truths. My dear Lord, those devotees who have thrown away the impersonal conception of the absolute truth and have therefore abandoned discussing philosophical truths should hear from these self-realized devotees about your holy name, form, pastimes, and qualities. They should completely follow the principles of devotional service and remain free from illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, and animal slaughter, surrendering themselves fully with body, words, and minds, they can live in any ashram or social status. Indeed, you are conquered by such persons, although you are always unconquerable. So the idea is jnane prayasa mudapashinamanteva. One should jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiyavartam. One should stani stita shrutigatam tanu van mano virye prayasho jita jitopi Srilokyam. One should hear about devotional service from the Lord's devotee. Gane prayasa mudapashino. One need not have any external knowledge, but one can get Prabhu kohe eho hoy agi koho ar raya kohe prema bhaktis sarva sadyasar. At this point, Mahaprabhu said, this is eho, he says, eho hoy, this is acceptable. Before he said ekobaya, this is external. Now Mahaprabhu says, yes, I accept this. This is all right, but still you can speak more on this subject. Oh, here's the verse right here by Rupa Goswami. Anyabilashita shunyam gyanakarmadi anavritam anukuyena krishnenu shilanam vaktir uttama. That's the verse. And we'll read this purport. At this point, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, this is all right, but still we can speak more on the subject. Ramananda Roy then replied, ecstatic love for the Supreme Personality of God is the essence of all perfection. In this connection, Srila Bhakti, so I wanted to go back here. After hearing the Lord, as usual, rejected this one when it was about Karma Mishra Bhakti, Mahaprabhu said, Ehobaya, that's not acceptable. And that is, and he stated, Brahma Bhuta Prashanatnamana Shochati Dakangshati Samasarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktir Labate Param. When one comes to the Brahma Bhuta stage, at that stage of what people are normally aspiring after, liberation, that's where bhakti can begin. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his Anubhashya commentary says that at this stage, devotional service mixed with speculative knowledge, or jnana misha, mixed with jnana, is also external and not within the jurisdiction of pure devotional service as practiced in Vaikuntha Loka. We're not interested in just acquiring jnana. We're interested in that knowledge which comes by engaged in devotional service as a result of one's own, development or realization, not by first acquiring jnana. As soon as there's some conception of materialistic thought, be it positive or negative, the service is not spiritual. It may be free from material contamination, but because there is mental speculation, the devotional, and you can equate jnana with also mental speculation. We have seen that those who follow jnana, they don't end so well. They go off the path. As soon as there is some conception of materialistic thought, be it positive or negative, the service is not spiritual. It may be free from material contamination. Because there is mental speculation, the devotional service is not pure and freed from the contamination of material life. A living entity who wants to be completely pure must be above this material conception. The negation of material existence does not necessarily mean spiritual existence. The negation of the negative doesn't, in this case, mean positive. After material existence is negated, spiritual existence, namely Satchidananda, still may not be manifest. Until one comes to the stage of actually understanding one's until one comes to the stage of actually understanding one's eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, he cannot enter into spiritual life. Spiritual life means becoming detached from material life and engaging in the loving service of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore asked Ramananda Roy to explain something transcendental to devotional service mixed with speculative knowledge, or mixed with jnana. A pure devotee is completely surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord. So so the verse of Rupa Goswami is, Anyabhilashita shunyam gyanakarmadi yanavritam. Gyan and karma are rejected as negative. And Guru Maharaj says both power or karma and both power and jnana karmadi yanavritam, anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi yanavritam, both karma and jnana are rejected as being negative. They are negative things. Both knowledge, well, jnana is also related with renunciation. So jnanis are like that. So those both mundane activities and renunciation are not positive engagements in devotional service. Renunciation just for itself is not positive. They are negative impulses. Like stopping one's activities which would, and come to a state of inertia, that's not positive. One has to be engaged in devotional activities. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore asked Ramananda Roy to explain something transcendental to devotional service mixed with speculative knowledge or mixed with jnana. A pure devotee is completely surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord, and only by his love does he conquer Krishna, who cannot be conquered by anyone. Krishna always stands victorious over everything. No one can conquer. One can attain the stage of pure devotional service by fully surrendering. This is next corroborated by Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein Lord Brahma, defeated by the potency of Sri Krishna, fully surrendered unto the Lord. Jnane prayasa mudapasyanamanta eva jivanti svan mukaritam bhavadiyam vartam stani stita shrutigatam tanuvan manobirye prayaso jita jitopi asitai strilokyam. So this verse talks about Jivanti swan mukaritam bhavadiya vartam. You have to hear discussions from realized devotees. Then you, by oral reception, tanuvat manobir, you hear about activities of devotional service engaged with body, mind, and words. Then the Lord can be conquered if one is engaged and in association with realized souls. Then Prabhu says, Eho hoi age koho ar, raya kothi prima bhakti sarva sadyasar. Then Mahaprabhu says, yes, this is the beginning. This is acceptable. Now please go on further. At this point, Mahaprabhu replied, this is all right. Before he was saying this is external. Now Mahaprabhu says this is correct. To become engaged in jnana shunya bhakti. Bhakti which is without contamination of jnana. This is all right, but still, he could speak more on the subject. Ramananda Roy then replied, ecstatic love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the essence of all perfection. In this connection, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya, says that after hearing Ramananda Roy, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Eho hoi age kohar. This means that this is the process accepted in devotional service. But there is something more than this. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested him to explain what was beyond. Simply executing the duties of all varnas and ashramas is not as good as offering all the results of one's activities to the Lord. When one gives up all fruitive activities and fully surrenders to the Lord, he attains swadharma tyaga, wherein he abandons the social order and takes to the renounced order. That is certainly better. However, better than the renounced order is cultivation of knowledge mixed with devotional service. Yet all these activities are external to the activities of the spiritual world. There is no touch of pure devotional service in them. Pure devotional service cannot be attained by empiric philosophy, nor can perfection be attained simply by good association. Devotional service by self-realization is a different subject matter. It is untouched by fruitive activity, for one surrenders the results of activities to the Lord, abandons prescribed duties, and accepts the renounced order of life. Such devotional service is situated on a higher platform than that of empiric philosophic speculation with a mixture of bhakti. This is verified by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi yanavritam anukuyena krishnanu shilano. Bhakti Uttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. And it says, Jnana karmadi anavritam. Jnana and karma are rejected. Devotional activities, however, sometimes appear to be impure in the neophyte stage, but in the mature stage they are completely pure from material activity. Therefore, Ramananda Roy replied after hearing the last statement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prema Bhakti Sarva Sadyasar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually accepted this verse, Jnane Prayasam, as the basic principle of perfection. One has to practice this principle in order to make further progress. When further progress is actually made, one comes to the platform ecstatic loving service to the Lord. The first stage is technically called sadhana bhakti, or devotional service in practice. The result of sadhana bhakti must be ecstatic love, attachment for the Supreme Personality of God, which is also called prema bhakti. In the neophyte stage, sadhana bhakti includes faith, association with devotees, and practicing devotional service. Thus one is freed from all unwanted things. One then becomes fixed in devotional service and increases one's desire to act in devotional service. Thus one becomes attached to the Lord and his devotional service. Nano pacharata kritya pujanam artabando premnaiva bhakta virayam shuka vidrutam shat yavat shud asti jatare charata pipasa tavat sukaya bhavato nanu bhakshapeye nano pachara krita pujanam artabando premnaiva bhakta rinayam shuka vidnutam shat yavat shud asti jatare charata pipasha tavat sukaya bhavato nanu bhakshapeye. Ramananda Roy continued, as long as there is hunger and thirst, eating and drinking makes one feel very happy. When the Lord is worshipped with pure, loving, transcendental bliss, when the Lord is worshipped with pure love, transcendental bliss is awakened in the heart of the devotee. So speaking of hunger and thirst, I'll stop here, and tomorrow I'll repeat reading from this Jnane Prayasam Jnane Prayasam Udapashyanamanteva verse. I'll start with that again, because that's the beginning. But that verse is concerned with hearing from self-realized devotees. You can't just acquire knowledge, or you can't just acquire, or you can't acquire knowledge, and you can't also, not real knowledge, and you also can't just give up activities without the association of realized devotees. So that is really the beginning of devotional service. Yane prayasam udapashyanamanteva jivanti swan bhukaritam bhavadiya vartyam. It is by associating with great realized souls, bhavadiya vartam. Then you can hear discussions about the Lord. Stanis dita, let's see, Stanis dita in their own position. Shruti Gatam, when you hear from them, Tanuvat Manobir, and engage your body, mind, and body, words, and mind, following their direction. Ye, those, prayasat, almost always ajita. Ajita, Mayan, conquer me. Conquered, you are. My pure devotees, Srilokya with it. Stanistita, Shruti Gatam, Tanuvam, Manobir, Ye, Prayaso, Jita, Jitopi, Iced, Api, Ice, Stanistita, Shruti Gatam, Tanuva, Manobir, Ye, Prayaso, Jita, Jitopi, Asi, Taistrilokyam. Then the Lord becomes conquered when you're engaged in devotional service under the direction of self-realized devotees. And that's the important thing. And Mahaprabhu accepts that as the beginning. Yes, this is actually, this, of all the things you said, this is the beginning and it's acceptable. So tomorrow we'll continue from that point. Okay. Hariharaya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama. Hariharaya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Hariharaya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama. Jadavaya Manavaya Keshavaya Nama. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatha Maranam. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Garanara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Jai Shri Guru Vaishnava Pare Majai Shri Guru Vaishnava Pare Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamuda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo Haribo Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gan Shri Radha Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Srila Bhakti Jai Om Vishnu Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Srila Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Marga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Premsigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Vishpaparanya Jai Om Vishnupad Vishpaparanya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Shri Kuladvip Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Sokel Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Sevashram Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Madharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Kalindi Munda Jo Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Shri London Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi.
Janardan Maharaj Ki.
Anyamilashita Shunyam Gyana Karmadi Anavritam Anukuyena Krishna Nushilam Bhakti Uttama. Okay, yeah, finished. Bhakti, free from karma and jnana. Artificial renunciation, speculative knowledge is jnana. Mundane activities, without them, we don't need them.